listening to CaveRadioBroadcasting.com. The words and opinions you are about to hear are of the hosts and do not reflect the management of CaveRadioBroadcasting.com.
Good afternoon and welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole. Today's Thursday, December 29th, year of our Lord 2016, and you're listening to a Gen Pop Media production. Well, it's the last show of 2016.
Yeah.
Got DiBiase and Kenny. Hooper is en route.
Snow? Oh, no, not snow.
Train? Maybe bridge. Maybe freighter.
Drawbridge.
Could be drawbridge.
Train.
Billy Goats?
Train over the drawbridge.
I think it's sheep in the road.
So he ran into a herd of sheep.
He ran into a herd of sheep.
In the back roads? Yeah, could be.
Yeah, there was a shepherd.
Yeah, so Christmas is over.
Christmas is over. So happy Christmas is over.
Yeah, you know, it's, me too. Me too. I like it.
The stress this year was just off the charts.
Was it?
Man.
See, I finally got to a point where, and thanks to my wife, she really loves Christmas, dude.
Yeah, so does
Christmas
mine.
is like a huge deal.
Mine makes me love Christmas more.
I'm almost there, dude. Like, really, I'm almost to the point where it's all cool. Like, Christmas music is even okay. I know, right? I know, dude. I
don't know if I can go there.
It's weird, but I'm actually glad because I remember, man, I used to hate Christmas, dude.
Oh, me too.
I used to I hated everything about it.
Me too.
And I don't really know why, but I just equated it to, like, I need to do stuff. I got to spend money. You know, I'm broke afterwards.
Isn't it the happiness? It's the people who love Christmas when you're miserable. You know what I'm saying?
I guess I just don't know why I was so darn miserable. But I'm actually, I'm glad. I'm kind of like, maybe I'm just getting dorky. I don't know what's going on.
Well, I would think you would have been into it a little earlier than me because you've had kids longer than I have.
See, dude, I know, and I feel bad, but to be honest, like I said, you kind of equate it to, it's like more stuff on the plate you got to do.
I hear you.
You know, you you run out of money, and then you're charging it, and then you're like, and it's just, you're just like so glad when it's over, and you can, put the tree to the curb and all that. But, it's really sad.
It is actually.
But no, I kind of dig it now. It was cool. But now it's over.
It is over.
And, that's okay, too.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the trying to get everything right. My wife, God bless her, I do not deserve her in any way, shape, or form, but she has this habit when something's coming up that's big to her. If it's a birthday party or something like that, we're hosting something. And, we always try to figure things out in advance. What are we going to cook? What are we going to do? And it is always her adding stuff at the last minute that makes her crazy and completely stresses her out.
Well, we all got...
I know.
We got our things.
Me. Oh, yeah. I mean, I do a lot. I watch it happen.
Yeah, it's...
And I'm kind of just like, babe, do we really?
Yeah.
Yes. Yes, we do.
Oh, well.
And it's like her heart is so in the right place, and I feel so bad for her that she's stressed out. And no matter what I try to do to help, it's either the wrong thing or not enough.
Well, at least, she's not oblivious, addicted to Norcos or something.
That's true.
Could be there. It could be that.
That's true. That's true.
I don't know where that came from. I just kind of thought of that. I think the Red Bull's starting to kick in. Yeah, my clutch isn't slipping anymore.
Okay.
Or maybe it's slipping now. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe it's slipping now.
Yepper.
So yeah, James's show
thought
I thought was pretty good.
Yeah, dude,
I enjoyed it.
It was good.
I could have listened to him for another couple hours, man.
He may come back. I told him to.
He should.
Anytime he wants, just pop in.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I think his message is good, and I think what's cool is that even we didn't plan it. We didn't prep for the show,
so
we just
happened. Yeah,
so whatever was to be said, was what was needed to be said, and there was a lot of stuff he said that I needed to hear, and I know people that it wasn't even the intended purpose. because we really kind of did that so that my buddy Chris, who's in the hospital,
Yes.
who's still in the hospital, could hear it and maybe get in touch with those guys, right? But there's a lot of stuff that we talked about that I'm like, oh my, that was perfect. I really hope so-and-so hears that. That was going through my head. So, yeah, I liked it. He's a good dude.
Yeah, he is, and he's working his butt off, man.
Yeah, no, he is.
He's doing good work. He's trying to help people, and that's cool because we are in short supply of people who are actually willing to help people.
Yeah, and a guy like that, guys like us, not that we're experts at anything or whatever, but we sure are good at screwing up.
Word.
So I mean, I think you'd listen to a guy like that,
Oh, absolutely, because you can connect with them. I mean, I think that's part of the problem. I think we had this discussion with James. I know I've talked to other other people about the thing, but part of the things that makes people shy away from really looking deeper into Christianity is the fact that Christians are portrayed as being like perfect or trying at least to appear to be perfect.
Yeah, it's part of the
the whole 50s church persona where you got your hat on and everybody do your thing and
sure.
And it's just not the case. It's not what it is.
Yeah, and it's the background work is done well to where even if we're not like that, you would think we are simply because of TV shows and the way they, and really the message is
isn't Ned Flanders a Christian?
I don't have any idea.
On The Simpsons.
I don't know. I never really watched The Simpsons, so I don't know. But if he is, I'm sure they make fun of him.
Well, that's why I'm.
Yeah. It's. I think it's a misconception that because I thought this way myself. It's just a bunch of hypocrites walking around telling everybody.
Yeah, me too.
You know what I mean? And that's
telling everybody how to live their lives, without living that way themselves.
Yeah, and it's like they think it's if to accept it or look into it or even show up at a church is almost like the equivalent of taking the bait, quote unquote.
Right.
And it's not really like that. I mean, I'm sure there's places that are going to be weird and off center and places I wouldn't go to, but you got to check it out and make a judgment for yourself. If it's cool, you'll know it.
Yeah, well, we're very lucky. We're very lucky that our church is different. That it's not one of the places you're talking about. And even James noticed it. Yeah. That there is, obviously we've found out that there's a lot of good things going on at Northridge. And,
it seems like a pretty cool place.
And obviously James has some good things going on at his church as well. And we are not in a bad situation due in large part to the fact of our church and the way they run it.
Yeah, because I mean I've been to some other churches, been invited and went, and mostly for a girl,
Right.
And there's been a time or two where, and of course I was with my brother at the time, and where we're just like, yo, dude, if they start passing around rattlesnakes in here, man, like we're freaking out of here, dude, and I'm getting punched in the arm. I'm like, shut up. I'm like, no, I'm serious, dude. This is like, come on now.
Yeah.
And I just never would go back because it wasn't my thing, dude. Right. I just was like, yo, whatever, man. I mean, it was, you might run into places like that, but not all like that, And obviously, I can vouch for James, so if he says check it out, if you have issues you need to deal with, then it's worth a couple of minutes of your time to talk to somebody,
Without a doubt.
Hooper's here.
¿Cómo estás?
What's up, man?
Fräuleins.
How was the drive?
Great.
Yeah, good.
If it was like that every time, I would only be 10 minutes late to every show.
How was your Christmas, man?
It was actually really good.
Good.
Good for the kids. hung out with Brady.
Nice.
We built a ton of Lego sets.
Oh, I love Legos, dude.
It actually...
I love Legos, dude.
I feel like a kid when I'm playing with him because he'll be like, well, let me put this on. And they're, the kid in me is going, well, I want to click it on. But, he's 5, so I'm like...
Sure.
But I'm into it. Like,
I love Legos.
We built some Star Destroyer. I don't know what the names of the ships are, but these were like 700-800 piece thingies.
Oh, wow. See, I want to buy one of those, like, for me.
Yeah.
It's therapeutic, dude. You sit there and it's
oh, yeah.
I used to build
it's
model
it's
model
the opposite
airplanes.
of therapeutic for me.
That stuff is... I used to do that, too. It's cool.
I'm going to introduce
model
him.
cars and all that. Oh, yeah, dude. I used to love that.
I had like every World War II... even the most obscure airplanes that Revell or Monogram, those were the model makers, and I'd have them hanging in my room.
Yeah, dude. By
the end, these things were looking...
Dude, I had an aircraft carrier.
Yeah.
Like, it takes weeks to, it's a
yeah.
commitment, dude.
I was way too impatient for that when I was
I'd still do it. I love that kind of stuff.
How are you guys doing?
okay.
Good, man. Good.
Yeah, I wasn't sure we were going to be on tonight.
Well, we are.
Yeah,
Look at
obviously.
that.
Surprise!
Surprise,
Look at that.
surprise.
Yeah, we're here.
We are here.
So, a few things going on in the world.
A few, yeah.
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 I mean, I've got 2 on the tip of my tongue. Do you guys have something in particular?
Yeah, I don't know why, but I'm so affected by the fact that George Michael died.
Dude, it was weird because I was listening to Andrew Wilkow days before the holiday.
Right.
And the whole show, and I thought it was hilarious. He was playing Last Christmas by Wham.
Okay.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Over and in between commercials, just to mess with everybody in the studio, and he was going on and on about Wham, and like he wants a Wham concert T-shirt. If anyone has one, like the whole show, right? And then right after Christmas Day, George Michael dies. I'm like, dude, this is so weird.
Everybody on my karaoke show, when they found out that George Michael died, there were so many people singing Wham and George Michael songs.
It's crazy, dude. Yeah,
I'm like, all right, I'm done with this.
It was weird.
Yeah,
and
then
Carrie Fisher,
and then her mom dies a day later.
The princess.
Yeah, dude. It's
That's what I'm about to say is what gives conspiracy theorists a bad name. So Princess Leia dies, and it's getting so much coverage. Like, it's interesting because sometimes more famous people in Hollywood don't get that type of coverage. And I just made a comment. My sister asked, "Hey, so what do you think about Carrie Fisher?" And I just said, it's just odd how much press she's getting. That to me is, it indicates there may be something else to this, because normally it wouldn't be covered by it. It was just comprehensive coverage. And then Debbie Reynolds dies the next day.
Yeah, she did a lot of stuff though too.
That's where I don't like coincidences. I'm not saying they don't happen. I don't believe in them so much anymore.
right. Yeah. No. Me too.
You don't think it had anything to do with the fact that they've rebooted the Star Wars franchise last year? There's a Star Wars movie out.
Well, they did say they did wrap up on episode 8 that she finished all her filming.
She finished
for that.
all that.
Okay, so she's going to be in it.
She just released a book where she dishes on some affair she had with
Harrison Ford.
Yeah, thank you, Harrison Ford.
I heard about that.
And then I think his response to it was a single word. He just said lawyer. That's what I read.
Really?
This was just within the last, recent. This came out.
Yeah, if you work with someone that closely, odds are you're going to bang him at least one time.
Well, I mean, whatever. It was like in the 70s, so, she was 19, he was like 33 or something. I'm like, yeah, Harrison Ford, dude.
Yeah,
way to go. But anyway.
There's a John Amos
there's been a lot
from
going
Good
on.
Times. He did die, too,
Really?
Yeah.
Who's John Amos?
He was
the Black Dad?
The father on the Good Times.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yep. Him, the guy who did the voice of Alf from back in the day.
Okay.
He passed away, too.
Jeez.
Who's the
there was a couple people that
who's the black guy that
Cleaning
did the
house.
movie? He was a funny comedian. He did the movie Mr. 3000, but he actually
Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac.
Bernie Mac.
Look into his there's something
My
creepy
guy,
about
dude.
his death.
I was so bummed out when he died.
I love Bernie Mac.
I love Bernie Mac.
Yeah, me too.
People close to him said that that was an Illuminati death.
There's a few that are.
We'll
that,
have to get
that
Randy
name
Quaid on
this.
Randy Quaid on the line to ask about that.
I would
could.
love to have Randy
Yeah.
Quaid.
I mean, everyone
You
put
have
it
no
anyone
idea.
that talks, is outspoken about this secret cabal. We are made to think they're wacko.
Yeah.
So everyone, you say Randy Quaid, and everyone thinks, oh, wacko.
Immediately, yeah, nut, yeah.
But actually, the man just very specifically said, look, there is a conspiracy, and it leaks into Hollywood. I mean, these people control not just Hollywood, but so much more than that. So, you know, the minute you say that, we're already conditioned to think, okay, this guy's dismiss it before looking into it.
Yeah. What's her name? And the young actress that died kind of mysteriously.
Brittany Murphy?
That's right, yeah.
And then her boyfriend dies a few months later.
Yeah, and then there was some afterwards, like years afterwards. You know, it was a long time. Stuff came out that they were talking about people were following them. They were being monitored, like weird stuff like this. And they wondered if maybe they were poisoned or something. There was some back conspiracy to that from around her death. I remember reading it.
Well, you know, as I'm going through this quotes book, I've learned so much. But it's interesting. A lot of the people that were quoted were killed. I mean, certainly we know about Martin Luther King, John F. Kennedy, but there are a lot of other like sub players that aren't so famous, and the details of how they died. You know, because when you go in and I'm citing these quotes, I'm making sure they really said it, trying to figure out where they said it or where they wrote it. One of them we've talked about before was Larry MacDonald. He's the guy that got up in front of Congress, and there were actually a number of guys that did this in front of Congress, not just in the 1970s. They've actually been doing this all throughout history. But he was one of the recent ones that had come out saying, look, you know, the Rockefeller business interests are, I mean, there's a secret plot. They literally want to enslave all these Americans. And he was one of the first politicians that's coming out and talking about this on the congressional floor. Now, he's the guy that was on flight KAL007, which was shot down by the Russians, if you remember.
Yeah.
So what's the interesting backstory there is he actually missed his original flight, or he missed the first flight that was going to be getting him overseas. He ends up on a flight that has Richard Nixon on it, okay? For some reason, Richard Nixon, they're on a stopover in, I don't know if it was Juneau, Anchorage, or Nome, Alaska, but the plane stopped in Alaska for refueling, new passengers, whatever. And for some reason, Nixon was told to get off that airplane. So Nixon was supposed to have been on flight KAL007. I never knew this. He gets pulled off, and then this plane gets shot down. And like TW-800, there are always people that are going to investigate it. Certainly family members, people that are onto this kind of thing. And it was a total, we were told it was shot down, but apparently there were survivors after the shooting. This plane had remained airborne for another 5 minutes. They saw it descend some 5,000 feet, and they believe it made a crash landing, and there were survivors. Now we're talking about conspiracy theories coming out of the Russian government, the Soviets at the time, and that all of these guys were taken prisoner somewhere in some camp inside the Soviet Union. But, I mean, at this point, you know, it gets, like all of these things, it gets so murky, people just stop looking. And I don't know what the truth is, but the fact that Nixon was supposed to be on that flight and for some reason just decides not to finish the leg.
No, it just worked out. It's coincidence, you know.
Yeah, coincidence, right?
Just a good thing. I mean, you know, it'd been crazy if he was on there. I mean,
maybe he just wanted to hang out in Anchorage for a night.
Yeah, because they didn't know that
the
it was going to
nightlife there's got to just be off the charts.
But they didn't know it was going to be shot down.
Yeah,
I
of
mean,
course not.
they didn't know that.
No, the two things in the world that I was thinking about, which just kind of surprises me because these are serious diplomatic, long-range affected moves that are, one is the repealing of our support for Israel, which carried.
Very interesting.
And then apparently today Obama ordered out all Russian diplomats out of the United States. Did I understand that properly?
I didn't see anything about that, but I've been kind of a little bit disconnected the past week with the holidays and stuff. But it doesn't surprise me, actually.
Why would an administration with 25 days left to go, a complete lame duck situation, do something that is so destabilizing to the balance of power in the world by pulling back our support of Israel?
Well, I mean, you could chalk it up to as, it's like booby trapping the foxhole. I mean, when you leave it, you leave a mine behind, so if anyone else tries jumping in there, they get blown up. I mean, how much damage can you do in 25 days or whatever it is? Probably a lot. I mean, you could do something, you could do 1,000 things every day. I mean, it could, who knows?
Well,
because that's a
Inauguration Day, that's my first breathe easy, because, we've been joking about how Obama would be the president after January 20th. But it sure sounds like he's trying to start a war.
It's for me anyway, it's almost to the point of annoying, where it's like they're not going to stop until they do start this war. Nothing has kind of worked yet, so they keep trying. It's like they keep trying. I mean, it's really things are hot, dude.
Yeah, according to Reuters, Obama kicked out 35 Russian suspected spies and imposed sanctions on 2 Russian intelligence agencies over their involvement in hacking U.S. political groups in the 2016 presidential election.
This is such a scam story.
Oh, my.
It's like,
you've got to be kidding
it's
me.
like he's like playing the bad guy in a James Bond movie. Like, you think that's how this works. The Russians did it.
Well, hello, Mr. Bond.
Are you serious? This is...
I was walking by the television tonight, and the CNN or Fox reporter said, Russia has announced, and they make all these announcements. And I'm like, how does an entire country make an announcement like this? Like, does everyone feel that way? Or is it just Putin?
Oh, right.
Did he
That's
actually
what
say
they
this,
mean,
or is this some underling? I mean, he doesn't have the time to put all these communications together. I mean,
Did he really say it?
And then you look behind the scenes, and all throughout history, you've got politicians on both sides of the ocean with the Russians, with the Americans, who are like, there's this third entity. They call it the cabal, the banking cabal, and they're like, they're the puppeteers. I mean, they're making sure that America and the Soviets were essentially equally balanced for the last 50 years, when we literally could have put Russia out of business 20 times. And I mean, that is who really is pulling the string. I mean, after putting together the quotes in this book, it is so clear to me. I mean, you can just follow it right through from World War I through today.
Yeah, it's a little unsettling, dude.
Yeah, he closed 2 compounds, too. One in New York and one in Maryland.
What's a compound? Is this like a...
It says they were used by Russian personnel for intelligence-related purposes.
Yeah, like the bad guys have like a fort in our territory.
Yeah, like they run in an office at 2nd and 3rd. You know what I mean, or whatever. It's.
Yeah, when I think compound, I think.
How do they have a? Yeah, whatever. I'll tell you what. Me personally, I don't believe any of this.
Well, this was one of the things that led Bill Cooper to make that unbelievably prophetic statement that Osama bin Laden is going to get blamed for something. Now, he had a lot of other intelligence, but he lost it on the day. Now, this is 6 weeks before 9/11, and a CNN news crew went and interviewed Osama bin Laden at his hideout. So what's interesting is that takes place in 2001. And it was about June of 2001, July of 2001. It was a month or two before 9/11. And then you go back and look at who's on the FBI's most wanted list at the time. Well, Osama bin Laden was one of the 10. And he had been there since 1999. And then you juxtapose that with all our intelligence agencies saying, we're looking for this guy, we're looking for this guy. They can never find him. Our military, with spying and with all this, can't find him. But somehow a news crew guy finds out where he is, and they just take their whole crew of cameras and interviewers, and Peter Arnett from CNN.
Right.
He sits down with essentially Goldfinger, the bad guy. Like,
right, yeah, right.
So and you're saying our whole military industrial complex could not find this guy, but a mid-rate reporter just
Well, yeah, he knows a guy.
he knows a guy.
He knows a guy. Yeah, he knows a guy. He's got a guy over there.
And that's when that's when he turned up the volume, saying, "Guys, if you don't see a setup coming a mile away, you are the dumbest people I've ever met." That's how he talked. So it's all this whole thing is just one big stage show.
It's creepy.
It's very creepy.
It's heating up really quick, and everyone's distracted by
Trump.
The dumbest things that you couldn't make it up. It's so stupid that people are hung up on things, and all this stuff in the background's going on. And I was pretty shocked when I saw little blurbs about something with Israel, and I don't think this is going to be a good thing.
Yeah, well, look for me, and this is what sets the books in the Bible apart, because these things, without question in my mind, predicted all of history before they happened. No other book has done it. It's what authenticates it. For me, it is. And it is interesting, because not only was the prediction that Israel would be reformed, was that just unbelievable, but the way it happened, every detail was right. And what happened this week is a fulfillment of, it looks like another prediction, which is at one point the entire world. Now, this is being written 2,000 years ago. It says Israel's going to not be a country for a long time. That happened. That was unbelievable back then. Then it would be reformed. That happened. The way it happened in an hour. It was announced by a guy named David. The currency would be restored, the language restored. You wouldn't be able to walk across borders from the bordering countries to Israel. You could only either fly in or come in by boat. That's happening. And it also said in the last days, the whole world will turn against Israel. And we were Israel's, essentially, its main defender. And a lot of scholars think that the grace the United States has gotten was because of our protection of that country. I don't know if that's true or not. But it's interesting now that, because if we pull our support of Israel, who's left to defend them? I mean, where will the reprisal come? I mean, Israel's no pushover. They've got a very strong military.
Yeah, and it seems like, and I haven't been on top of it like I really usually am, but Israel's been kind of reaching out to other countries for potential. I thought, correct me if I'm wrong, but I thought they were doing some joint something with Russia. Like he was proposing some kind of work together kind of thing. Look it up, because it was something like that, and it seemed to me at the time I was like, wow, he's like reaching out for. Yeah, it's Netanyahu's not an idiot.
Yeah, I'm looking right now. It's hard to keep up with world events, because our mainstream media, just forget it. They're just not. They're not equipped. They're not incentivized. They're not going to cover the story the way it is. They're going to cover it the way they want it to be covered. And we've caught them in so many just blatant deceptions. It's just, if you date a guy or girl that lies to you 50 times, you're not apt to believe them so quickly. It's time to give you an excuse. So it typically takes a month or so for alternative media to do their homework, analyze the documents that were in play, what was said, what was done. So you're almost always like in recent history when you're studying this, because I don't think even the leaders of the Russians and the leaders of the Americans In fact, I'm going to give you a quote I came across yesterday which sums this up, I think, real well. Oh, yeah, this was written in a book. Now, this book came out in 1975, and it was written by two guys. One of them was a guy named Robert Shea, and the other guy was Robert Anton Wilson. And in 75, they came out with 3 individual books, which would later form a trilogy, and the trilogy was called the Illuminati trilogy. Okay? One of the books was called The Eye in the Pyramid. So it was, it was quote unquote a fictional story, but it was not fictional. I mean, I think that was the only way they could have discussed this in 1975 was through a fictional story. One of the quotes was in that book, which I thought was interesting. Let me see if I can get it. Remember, this is 1975. I'm going to read you a couple of them. The Illuminati control all sorts of organizations and national governments without any of them being aware that the others are also controlled. Each group thinks it is competing with the others, while actually each is playing its part in the Illuminati plan. They go on to say, I know they went on to say something. Hang on a second here. Everything is infiltrated. At present rate, within the next few years, the Illuminati will have the American people under tighter surveillance than Hitler had on the Germans. And the beauty of it is, remember, this is 1975, the majority of the Americans will have been so frightened by Illuminati-backed terrorist incidents that they will beg to be controlled as a masochist begs for the whip. And there's one other one.
75, huh?
Yeah, which is interesting because it would be another 26 years before 9/11 even happened, where we gave our rights away in that Patriot Act of 9/11.
Well, I don't know that we gave them.
Well,
we didn't. I mean,
a lot.
I mean, no one asked my
it
opinion.
was certainly taken away, right?
I don't remember that phone call.
I don't remember voting for that either. Yeah.
Yeah, the last comment that we included from that book, it just went, the Illuminati, period. The real force behind all communist and fascist movements. Whether you're aware of it or not, they're also already in control of the United States government. 1975.
1975, they said that.
There's... You can find things like that.
75, Ford was in the White House, right?
Oh,
Jimmy Carter.
Carter was 76.
Oh, no, Carter came in 76 to 80. Yeah, probably would have been Ford.
was it? Yeah, I don't know. I was like 1. Depending on the month.
So there's that.
Yeah. I always feel so much better when we have these discussions.
Yeah, man. Well, it's good to keep, aware.
You guys want to talk about something?
Because there's some other, yeah. What?
I don't know. You guys tell me. I'm immersed in this crap all day, so I'm
Yeah.
I don't even see it anymore. It's just so different than what we were raised to think.
Oh, yeah.
And the things that were going on in the world while we were just, going to school or worrying about our, little personal, like
Trying to get our hair feathered properly.
Yeah, exactly.
You're right. Yeah.
Do you guys have any big goals for this year? Any big plans? Any?
For the remainder of 2016 or next year?
I meant for next year.
Next year? I haven't really thought about it. I definitely
2017's my year, man.
I think everybody's like, yeah, it's my year. I'm gonna try to get my what back together and get back in shape. That's what I'm gonna do.
You gonna get in shape?
Yeah, I gotta get back in shape, dude.
Yeah, I've been thinking about that too. I'm
feeling old. That's not good.
Yeah. If I have to exert for like 10 minutes, I'm like sweating, diffusing a bomb kind of look. It's not good.
Yeah, I got to do that. So that's my only real goal. That's achievable, I guess I should say.
What else is going on? How your family's doing?
Doing good.
Yeah, everybody's good.
Doing good, yeah.
Kids had fun.
Yeah.
That's cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, you guys want to take a break and then we can figure out how we're going to play out?
If you want, yeah, man. I'm good.
It's 6:30.
Is it 6:30?
I know. I'm getting surprised here, too.
Yeah. Hey, let's play some extra commercials today. Why not?
Well, I definitely could use a bathroom break because, man, my plumbing is...
Yeah, lots of coffee.
I don't know what goes on because I'll be a camel for 2 days. Just everything stays in. And then all of a sudden, I'm in the bathroom 10 times. Why am I telling you guys this?
I don't know. That was just actually, I mean, it could just be that you're getting older.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the
Shit's
Illuminati.
breaking. Stuff is breaking
stuff's
down.
starting to wear out. Like, not today, dude. I'm tired.
Or like when you drink and it's like, already like, what is it? Damn, I can't think of it now. When you're always drinking, then you always break the seal. That's what it
there
is.
you go. Yeah.
Break the seal.
Yeah, once you do that, it's over.
Yeah. Then it's
Yeah.
like every 10 minutes.
That is a strange phenomenon.
Yeah,
Every 10 minutes you break the seal,
Yeah.
and then it's like every 10 minutes you go into the bathroom.
All right, well, my seal has been broken.
Already? That's
Yeah.
nasty.
Oh.
Do you guys like where Trump, what he's doing so far? What are your thoughts?
I don't know, dude. I haven't really looked at it close enough. I mean, I've heard, of course you're going to hear all the
Yeah, I just keep hearing it's the end of the world.
who's a demon. Yeah, right, exactly. This is, and it's the, it's cabinet's all white and brr. So I've just been kind of trying to ignore that for a minute and pay more
I want
attention
to let him
to
finish what he's doing.
Yeah, because
You know?
he's not even president yet. So like, we'll just wait because there's like other stuff going on, and I don't know, man. It's looking like
I'll tell you what, this Israel thing's kind of scary.
something could pop off at any second.
Because
dude.
I'll tell you, man. 25 days is a long time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And if we were what was holding Iran at bay, and now Obama's on his way out going, you think I'm not going to have a legacy?
Well, I think, doesn't it go a step further, though? Doesn't it even mandate borders for them? This UN agreement thing that they just did?
Well,
it goes back to pre-whatever, which means they have to give up.
Well, yeah. I mean, what John Kerry said was along the lines of, this land that was granted to you, I guess, in the Balfour Declaration, but they went and seized more land that was closer to the original bestowing to Abraham thousands of years ago, which included some Palestinian already, they've already been kicked out of their old houses. Now they're in these encampments. And look, I'm not a fan of what is going on in the Gaza Strip and with the Palestinians because there's so much hatred at work. Both sides are guilty. In my mind.
Absolutely.
And the Israeli military is a very powerful force, and they keep the Palestinians down by force.
Well, I would think, and I could be completely speaking out of turn here, but I would think that with a lot of stuff we've seen that's gone on in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip over the last 50 years or so, I would think that the Israelis would be a little more compassionate to the plight of the Palestinian people. I mean, they understand. They were once kicked out of there too. Now, I think the Palestinians have not reacted in a manner that says, "Hey, let's sit at a table and figure something out." But I mean, wouldn't you expect? Isn't Israel supposed to be the bigger person in all of this?
Yeah, and I don't know. I think along the same lines as you do because, but I question it because we're stuck with what. As far as information, we're stuck with what they give us, right? So I don't really know without being there what's really
That
going
was
on.
That's exactly the point I was going
Because
to make.
I don't know.
Because it's not like the Jews in Israel, like, they know what's going on and they get it. They're just reacting to the same media machine, which is owned by the same people that own our media, that is inciting their people to look at the Palestinian as these people are trying to kill us. They're trying to invade our land. And the same message is being filtered into the Palestinians by the same Al Jazeera, owned by the same guys that own CNN. I mean, this is all all of this comes together at one point. And one of the quotes we have in here, I don't even know who said it, but newspapers are a weapon. And they really are. You can start riots, movements, wars with newspaper.
That's kind of how they start.
Yeah.
Right? Some event takes place, and then it gets reported, and then a reaction occurs, right? So
Edward Bernays, the father of public relations, the nephew of Sigmund Freud, he was he wrote a book called Propaganda in the late 20s, early 30s. He did a lot of corporate work. One of the jobs he was doing, and I hope I have the country right because I believe it was Guatemala. We wanted to improve banana exports or imports from Guatemala, and they came out and made it sound like communist invasion. Communists from across the ocean are screwing up the banana exports of Guatemala. It led to a militarized conflict, which he said, we basically made all of it up just to sell some bananas. And that's one of the, and his book.
I think communists are more concerned with bananas than you realize.
Maybe
they might.
Maybe, yeah.
I mean,
and then, dude, we didn't even bring it up too because this ties in. What about this ambassador to Turkey that got capped on camera?
Oh,
weird, right? I mean, I thought that was straight. Did you watch? Did you see that?
No, I caught none of it.
Really?
This was like a week or two ago, right?
It was before Christmas. Before the holiday break, because I was at work, so it was last week, whatever. But yeah, he was at an art,
at an exhibit of some sort.
Yeah, and he's giving a talk, and some rogue.
Was it a lone gunman?
No, it was a Turkish cop. Yeah, dude, he was part of their riot police for like 2 years. He got through the metal detectors by flashing his badge, and then he was standing right behind the Russian ambassador while he was giving a talk, and the guy gets partway into his speech, and this dude pulls a piece and just shoots him like 9 times or something. And it was all caught on camera, all on video, all on photographs, and of course immediately still there's people breaking.
When he pulls a Travolta.
And he's going on and on about remember.
That's full of Travolta.
That's a straight up Travolta.
Yeah, he's going off about remember Syria, remember Aleppo, Allahu Akbar, all this stuff. He's yelling, and 15 minutes later they end up killing him. But the whole if you haven't seen the video of it, it's everywhere. You can see it. Go YouTube it. You'll see the video. It's not very long, and there's a couple different angles. I'm not convinced it's real or fake. I'm not sure yet. I'm on the fence with it.
You just don't know.
I'm on the fence with it, but sure, it looks pretty real, but I don't know. There's a lot of people saying that it's not real.
Dude, 9/11.
Obviously, they always do.
9/11 looked real, and it was
so it was very strange, dude. And then there were other reports at the same day. It was, I think, the equivalent of like a cabinet member to Putin, right? It's one of his people was found dead at his home, and they weren't sure if it was suicide or homicide, whatever it was reported. Just in the background, I noticed, an article about that. You didn't really hear about it. Then it's very weird. It's very weird. And so he turns out to be a Turkish cop, which is the whole situation over there. I mean, it's very eerily similar to World War I.
Yeah, whenever I hear lone crazed guy, I don't really believe. Put it this way: of all the quote unquote lone crazed gunmen that have done damage in this world, I don't think half of them were actually lone crazed gunmen. I think they were trained killers through some kind of MK Ultra programming. It's all classic examples. They commit some heinous crime, and then they all try to terminate themselves.
Or they get terminated right away.
Yeah, they rarely,
Yeah.
rarely does one survive. And when they do, like Jared from Arizona or the Denver shooter, they have no recollection of what they did. They're
it's
disassociative. They can't.
Yeah,
they have no concept.
it's always a sideshow.
And then their lawyer also happens to be one of the parents from Sandy Hook.
So that's just come on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Whatever.
Yeah.
All right, I'm taking a break. If you guys,
all right, let's do it.
Let's do it.
I will be.
Let's take a break, Ken. Welcome back to Down the Rabbit Hole. We are back with more current affairs and quotes and things like that.
Things like that. And stuff,
And things.
And stuff. Yeah, we were on the break. I was kind of telling him, like, over the holidays, Lily, my almost 13-year-old, she's like, hey, Dad, have you ever heard of so-and-so, some guy's name? And I don't even remember who it was. But I'm like, for some reason, it sounded familiar. And I'm like, that sounds familiar. And it's not like a music artist. It was just a name, right? I'm like, why? And she's like, oh, well, he's like this conspiracy theory guy on YouTube. And he always talks about the Bible and da-da-da and how things are like whatever. And she's like, I don't know. Maybe I'm just weird, but I'm like been obsessed with conspiracy theories. My daughter. Out of nowhere, right? And I'm just like, really? Okay. I said, I'll tell you what. I'll send you some names, some stuff to search on YouTube because I kind of point you in at least what I think is the right direction. Because there's all kinds of you could get into right. So so I sent her some, like the Russ Dizdar, Derek Prince, the Trey Smith, and
Trey
Chuck
Smith.
Missler. I said, start with those guys. I gave her some specific like videos to watch. And afterwards, I'm thinking, how in the heck is it? I know she doesn't listen to the show. I mean, nobody listens to the show.
That's not. We've actually had. All jokes aside, we've had
kidding.
like 5,000 viewers of those 5 episodes we've put up.
Nice. Yeah.
And that just keeps growing. We're going to be getting a lot more of those up this coming year, but this book's got to get done first.
Yeah. So she'll have to watch a few videos, and then I'll have to hit her with the digital simulation reality, and then my daughter will be.
So you don't really
on the
talk
show.
Conspiracies with her?
No, I mean Bible. That's stuff you talk to a 13-year-old about, but never really. No, I mean she just stumbled upon it, and she's been watching this guy's videos. And she's like, it's really cool how, he's always talking about the Bible all the time. And then I'm like, all right. So you have to at least, if you're going to start going down this road, you're interested, then at least listen to what these guys have to say. And don't trust any one of them because there's stuff I don't like about all of them on some point, right? Where you're like, nah,
Yeah,
don't
there's
really,
always
don't really
a
agree
level.
with that,
Yeah.
but as 99% of it is solid. So we'll see how that pans out.
Yeah, look, for me, she already believes in God, but for me, if you want to know your enemy, and if you want to take the time to understand how he works, study conspiracies. I'm not saying every single one of them has merit, but if you study 100 of them, from 9/11 to Sandy Hook to JFK to and the list just goes aliens, blah 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 blah. Understand that wherever there is a conspiracy, wherever the conspiracy movement congregates, that is a peek behind the demonic global system that is talked about in the Bible. It exists to deceive. It's got ulterior motives that most people don't understand, and you won't know why these conspiracies are happening unless you are couched in the Bible. Because it's how why would President Bush invade Iraq if he's not going to be president in 4 years? What's the point of? And
Right.
it's true. You can't even understand the motivation for some of these things when you look at it through just human eyes. And it's unsettling to see it, but you'll know your enemy. I mean, she
Yeah.
I consider like Missler and Prince and Trey Smith. Those guys are like third level.
Yeah, I told her about, especially like, Dizdar. I said, this guy's real heavy. So, maybe watch Trey Smith's Noah first. And that's a good 4-hour grip.
That's what I like about Trey Smith is he's just so on the edge. There's a little bit of comedy in there, but he gets his point across,
And it's there's so much. He packs so much information.
He puts a
in
lot
4
of
hours
information.
that is
absolutely
unbelievable. So if she gets through that and is interested in that, and then checks out the other stuff, she'll put it together, dude. She'll put it together. It'll eventually click, or she'll turn into a nut job, lives in the basement, and collects canned food. I don't know. We'll see how it goes.
And cats.
Hopefully not cats. Well, you can eat cats, so maybe that's not totally foolish.
Yeah. Well, as long as it's not your basement, right?
And not in my basement. No, that's not happening. Unless they're already in cans.
Right.
Then cats are okay.
Yeah.
Canned cats are okay.
Yeah, I'm not going to disagree with you on that.
What the hell are you guys even talking about?
I don't know. I have no idea. No idea.
Dude, you're gonna be
I had
putting too many
the
Chinese
misfortune.
businesses
I've spent a little time on YouTube too. I've been extremely busy, but I've been reading a couple good books, and I don't want to say I'm looking at the enemy because I know who the enemy is, and these people are not my enemies. These people are just the lost. They're deceived. And so I've been reading some books, doing some research, trying to step up my game, and I came across this video on YouTube that just makes me shake my head on both sides of the aisle. And it was basically this one guy, Josh something or other, put out $100,000 challenge on YouTube. That if you could, he put forth his story that God is real.
Okay.
And it's horrible. Horrible. I mean, he is setting back intellectual Christianity.
Okay.
I'm talking 100 years, okay? Because it's terrible.
Is he one of those plants that's there to
I don't know, maybe.
maybe.
I mean, I'm surprised this guy didn't have a pin, hi, my name's Josh, Westboro Baptist Church.
But he's got $100,000 on the table.
Oh, it's the $100,000 challenge.
Okay.
And if that isn't bad enough, okay, that this guy's out there representing me as a Christian.
Well, it could be good depending on how he framed it.
It's just bad.
Why?
He makes us look really bad. No. What I tripped across was first I saw videos for it, and then I saw this other video, and the title caught my attention. I don't remember what it was. But I ended up accidentally in the backyard of an atheist debunking the fact that there's a God. Basically, he was responding to his $100,000 challenge. I think the video was the title was I just won $100,000 on YouTube or something like that.
Okay.
And that's what caught my attention. And basically he's got a little box of the original video, and then he goes through and does what he calls debunking. I call it swearing and acting like a jackass.
Okay.
To this Josh guy who is, well, he's not swearing. And it made me realize that when you get into this debate, okay, and that's why it's important, I think, that we do our research and that we have the answers. Because it just seems like the guy who screams the loudest and swears the most ends up looking right. Because the worst thing was the comments, the hundreds of comments. This guy did nothing to disprove the existence of God. Nothing in his 8-minute video. But then you read all the comments. And it's all, yeah, you totally got him, dude. It's I never believed God was real. Thanks, man. It's like, so what's more pathetic? That these two guys are on YouTube and we're watching them? Or that there are other people who are using this other screaming idiot as a role model for the existence of God? The whole thing just, I've got a feeling in my stomach. I just want to kind of barf.
Well, I mean, you see this manifesting other ways too, because all of a sudden, it's all connected. Is communism, socialism, all these isms, all these things, this utopian nonsense has become cool, mainstream. If you don't agree with it, you're an idiot. The same phenomenon is going on with our own. We just watched it take place. I mean, you literally have people waving communist flags at the DNC. I mean, this is out of the closet communists almost getting nominated as this is scary stuff, and it's the same exact mechanism there. I mean,
how do you even deal with that? I find myself so frustrated.
I just, anymore, dude. This stuff used to get me hot under. I mean,
I'm not
pissed, but I just
pissed.
don't.
I'm not pissed. I'm kind of just sad.
Well, that's.
I mean, it's just like,
yeah.
wow.
So
really?
you're beyond anger.
yeah. I'm way
Yeah.
past anger.
You're in grieving now. So,
but I'm totally this side of apathy. So
yeah, no, I know what you mean. I don't know that. I think it's going to get a lot more frustrating coming up soon here. It's just going to be complete nonsense.
I mean,
flying
I know
around
we've
everywhere.
we've spent a lot of time talking about the election and both sides, the left and the right. But it just literally, I have, ever since this election cycle, in the last 3 or 4 months, I have been blown away by people who would appear absolutely normal. And then all of a sudden they speak their mind, and you can't believe what's coming out of their mouth.
Yeah.
It's just
Give us
blown
an
me away.
example.
Well, I mean, pretty much the opposite of reality. I mean, the opposite of everything we think. There was this one chick on YouTube that, it looked like it was going to be an SNL skit, and then she's just like going off on how all Trump supporters are make sure you apologize to your lesbian friends and your gay friends and your immigrant friends and all this stuff, because they're all done because of you, because you're a bigot, racist. And it's just, where did this come from? How did this happen?
Yeah, no, they've gone off the deep end with this stuff, and it'll continue. It'll continue right down to his cabinet. It's the whitest cabinet in history. It's like, my God, really? I mean, if we can't get off that racial labeling, forget it, because this is what everyone's talking about all the time. It's just nonsense. It goes nowhere. And they're totally going off the deep end, dude.
Yeah, it's just
after this
I
totally gone off
find
the
it
deep end.
disturbing, man.
Yeah, it is. It is very disturbing.
I don't know. I've been, I rarely am watching mainstream news, and I don't really spend time on Facebook. So I literally these stories, I don't feel like I'm in it like you guys are. But it's too frustrating to hear. What I get frustrated with, and I got to be more understanding about this, is just the ignorance of people. I want to remind everyone what the word ignorant means. It is to ignore, to have information in front of you, and you're just dismissing it. You're ignoring it. And obviously, God went out of his way to say what happens to the ignorant, but there's no, there is lost as willful deceivers, or those willfully deceived. And what passes for knowledge and intelligence, it's frightening how far off from reality it is. Whenever you find two friends or two people arguing over the merits of Clinton versus Trump, our argument basically was, we know Hillary's evil. There's a chance Trump's not. So, just logically, you just have to go that. So there wasn't much of a debate.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be standing up for either one of those folks, putting my life, my...
Yeah, I don't have the T-shirt, dude. Yeah.
But there are, I've got one friend who was giving a speech at her college, and she's very excited, and she's always peppy. And someone in the crowd asked her, were you a cheerleader when you were younger? Do you guys have any reaction to that question?
No.
Okay.
It's sexist, right?
Well,
It's no different
That
than did you
was
play
so-
volleyball or did
she,
you?
yeah. Well,
were
so
you
she got on and
into
she said,
sports or
and she throws out all the buzzwords that the media just introduced to do. This was a xenophobic and it was
God.
misogynistic. Really, did you really know what those
Do
words
you
even really freaking meant?
Because I had to Google a couple of them to
like know exactly.
know exactly. I mean, I had a clue,
Yeah, I know.
but I had to Google.
So
technically, we can't. None of the three of us can be xenophobic.
I don't even know. To
I
be
mean,
honest,
because-
I don't even
because-
know what xenophobia is.
It's the fear of people from other countries.
Yeah,
So we can't be xenophobic because your mother's from another country and our wives and children are from other countries.
well, my great grandparents were from another country.
Well, that's true. My
et cetera, et
great-grandparents
cetera,
Well, then I
were
am
too.
xenophobic because I am scared of people from other countries. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, your mom's pretty scary.
No, but it's kind of
She
like
can
that.
be.
You're afraid they're going to come take your stuff.
Yeah, it's
The Mexicans are knocking at my
so.
door.
So asking her if she was a cheerleader
So
was
this
offensive.
This is what I'm talking about. The programmed brainwashing, the programmed responses. The news sends her a message, essentially. You should be offended if anyone says anything that could possibly come close to being categorized as all of these new buzzwords: misogynistic, sexist, racist, xenophobe, blah, 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 blah. And
What does xenophobia have to do with cheerleading?
so she was just
know.
highly offended that someone would assume that because she was peppy on stage that she must have been a cheerleader. And it's one of those things
well,
like
she doesn't care about obviously offending all the cheerleaders out there.
Yeah.
does she?
Exactly.
I mean,
Yeah.
And
what about them?
Where's
The
the
world
where's
needs
the insult
cheerleaders.
in that? Because guys can be cheerleaders too. I've
Yeah.
seen them on coverage. Like, where's the insult
Phil
in
on
that?
Modern Family was a cheerleader.
Dude, it's so opportunistic. It just goes on and on, though. I mean, it doesn't, with this crap.
If you can be yanked around by your nostrils so easily by our mainstream media, oh, think this over here. Oh, quick, go to the other side. Think that. Think that. You should have lived in Nazi Germany. They would have loved you back then.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you think an entire nation was convinced to become a killing machine? Many of them by simply turning their back to the problem, but many of them actively participating in becoming this warring nation. And they were certain they were right. They were certain about it. The whole nation was just intoxicated. What does it take to be a worker for the Nazis? You'd be working for the SS. And you're at a camp and you're seeing thousands upon thousands of people coming through the doors. You're also making sure that these people, in the worst possible way, are executed without their clothes, without their jewelry, without their
No,
gold
forget the
teeth.
execution. I mean, they're treated. The execution's almost the humane thing. Consider the way those people were treated when they were in the camps.
Yeah, because, I mean, a lot of them just starved to death.
I mean, yeah. I mean,
You
just
know.
the conditions they lived
Skin
in,
and
the work
bones.
they were, the work they were forced to do. My God.
Yeah, but they were people, you were right. They're people that were staffing those places.
It's easy. What was it? It was the absence of absolute morality. That's what it was.
Yeah,
It was
well,
the
it was-
absence of any.
Well, it was perverted because
Well, that's
they
what it
they
is, 'cause they-
thought what they were doing was the right, proper thing to do because
Right.
they took the
Right.
they
Rationalism.
They
Yeah.
bought in. They believed it. They thought that they thought
Right. They
there was
rationalized
actually
the fact that the Jews were stopping them from greatness.
yeah they thought really that there was a such thing as the Aryan race, which there's clearly not. But
Well, in
They
a
believe
sense,
this.
what I think Hitler,
Well, in the comic books, there is, isn't there?
I mean, there were,
that the Aryan race is this history has muddled what it was, but really it was a search for the gods, small g, and I think that they were looking for genetic patterns in certain people that would identify who had a certain amount of DNA. Not the word they used was Aryan, but I think they could have used demonic as
or
well.
Nephilim.
Yeah.
I mean, and that could be the truth behind the, but I don't think that all the guards, all the workers, all the people, I think they really equated it to a racial thing.
Right.
Like they were a pure race, like white or whatever it was. But I think the truth behind it is what you allude to. They were searching for DNA
Oh, there was there was absolutely spiritual, anti-Christian occultism going on there, without a doubt.
Yeah.
I don't care if people want to say, "Well, Hitler was Catholic." I don't care. You know, he may have been Catholic at one point. He was working for the other side.
Yeah.
That is. I don't know the point I was about to make. What I wanted to do was make a movie that has a guy, just all of a sudden, he's working at the camp. You know, he's at Auschwitz or one of them, and he basically just says, "Wait a minute, I'm actually helping murder innocent people here," and then follow his life going backward, how to determine how he got that. How he was allowed to convince himself, or how he convinced himself, or was convinced that this was.
Well, they could be talking about us in 40 years. You know, I mean, how did Trump get elected? It's about being oppressed. You know, the German people were so oppressed after World War I that even though Hitler was giving them false pride and filling their heads with ridiculous ideas, they were regaining a sense of pride and identity as a nation when it was stripped from them after World War I. That's how. And when there are no moral absolutes, you can rationalize anything.
Yeah, interesting.
And they use the media to make them believe things that weren't true. I mean, come on, we experience that all the time.
Well, they had their own propaganda machine.
Well, I mean, our propaganda machine's based on their propaganda machine.
Yeah. In fact, they use the same techniques. I mean, as far as, you know, it's not outwardly completely false. They just, you know, report part of it and then suppress the rest.
Right.
Well,
and it
Joseph
creates,
Goebbels, the head of propaganda for Nazi Germany, he actually based his propaganda campaign off of Edward Bernay's book, Propaganda. And he's like, I mean, once you understand how to sway the masses, you're in total power if you own the media.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that Satan is smart enough to have figured that out somewhere in the last 2,000 years.
I think he wrote the original book on it, didn't he?
Yeah, I think so.
So as I was going through these, so I found this easily documentable trend going back to World War I, where it's normally it was the international bankers, the cabal, and the politicians throughout America's history have referred to the same group we've always taught, the Illuminati, Synagogue of Satan, whatever you want to call them. And obviously we know the Rockefellers are a part of this cabal. And hence the Standard Oil Company, which at one time was the biggest corporation in America. At the end of the, mergers and acquisitions happen and we think companies are being, but at the end of the day, they're just moving pieces around their own properties because the guys that are at the top of the pyramid are in control of most of the business in the United States. Almost every business you go to, franchise, if it's a household recognized name, it is most likely controlled at the end of the day by a guy that's bought into this dark system, even though they themselves may not realize what exactly they're into. They just know that if they listen to this XYZ guy from his secret society, he's going to be making a lot more money next year, so he's cool if he does a couple things that Mr. XYZ wants him to do, not seeing the bigger picture. So there was a senator, his last name was Church. I want to say his first name was Frank. And this involved Harry S. Truman. This was in 1942. This is before Harry S. Truman is even a vice president. He's a senator at the time. And they're doing an investigation, and it's Harry S. Truman's committee that is investigating. They were investigating what was called the war program. Now, in 1942, the U.S. had just been brought into World War II, because in December 7th, 1941, that's when the Japanese
Right.
were bombing
Pearl Harbor.
Pearl Harbor. So, and this is just one example of how you see this cabal operating all throughout history. This just happens to be a data point in 1942. And what was the name of... There was the Attorney General of the United States in 1942. He's obviously a big deal. We recognize his name. It slips my mind right now. He came in and testified before this committee and said, we have documented evidence that the Standard Oil Company, and then he starts showing all these documents. What they had done is, the war has now started, okay? Germany has already declared war on the United States. We knew a war was coming. The Standard Oil Company cut deals with the Nazi German government that basically gave the Nazis all of the synthetic rubber that was basically available in the world, even using America's raw materials to then box up and send over this synthetic rubber, which would do everything from make airplane tires to the linings of gas tanks to, in any war machine, you're going to need a lot of rubber. So Standard Oil was meddling in the resources needed to conduct a warring campaign, getting involved in geopolitics by starving one area of this needed commodity. Because I didn't know this until I started reading headlines from the 1940s. There was a rubber shortage. Like, people had anything made out of rubber, you were asked to donate it. There were rations. You couldn't. They did the same thing with certain metals, and you could only use a gallon of gas a week, things like that. And looking at the documents, the Rockefeller-run Standard Oil Company was double dealing behind the scenes, supplying both the Nazis and the Americans while they sat back and made money doing it. And Harry S. Truman's comment was, what they did is treason. And he was screaming on the floor of Congress. He goes, that is treason, which it is. Now, guess what the penalty was for the Standard Oil Company?
$50.
Yeah, it's a slap.
You're darn close. A $50,000 fine.
Oh,
no one arrested. No one goes to jail. No, nothing.
yeah.
The Attorney General in 1942 was Francis Biddle. No?
No. I mean, I'm sure you're right, but that's not the name that
How about Robert Jackson? How about Tom Clark?
how about
That was the preceding and succeeding Attorney General.
maybe he's like Deputy Attorney General or something. I'll see if I can track it down here in the next minute. So that was just one area, 1942, where these guys aren't a nation, so it's hard for us to imagine how they work and operate, because we're so, our mindset is one of borders and territory. Theirs is one of territory, but it's not geographical territory. It is literally mental territory. Like, they own a space. They own ideological space, and that is they are absolutely loyal to that over any sort of nationalism or any sort of patriotism for their respective nation. And they have used nations throughout all of history to war against each other. They use those wars to accomplish lots of goals: population reduction, testing of arms. That's where they test some of the nastiest stuff, because in the fog of war, Agent Orange is just part of Vietnam. But if you're testing a diabolical chemical on Americans in peacetime, it would be it wouldn't be so accepted. And
Well, he was just taking a page out of the Rothschild playbook, right? The Rockefellers was Standard Oil.
Yeah, it actually was financed with Rothschild money, and both, the Morgans and the Rockefellers are just redhead stepchildren to the Rothschilds.
Right, and the Rothschilds made their fortune, or a large part of their fortune, with Napoleon's defeat by misinforming the British people.
Yeah, that was one of their, there have been several moments in history where they've essentially claimed a lot of the wealth. 9/11 was one of them. I mean, we lost our gold reserves in New York City. 2008 was another one where, a lot of people lost the property they owned. It then reverted back to the banks, these people that own. You can follow this throughout history, going back to the founding of our country. These dudes they've just been a constant presence. But it's like some generations are a little more aware of them and others are lost. The citizens of the United States in the late 1700s, early 1800s were very aware of the tyranny that was behind the British throne. Flash forward 100 years later, and we're signing the Federal Reserve Act because we're asleep at the switch. You know what I'm saying?
I do.
I'm going to find you this if I'm lucky. Do you guys want to do any other... no. You guys want to do some random quotes?
Sure.
Why don't you guys pick a number between 1 and... Attorney General Thurman Arnold?
He wasn't anywhere in Wikipedia.
After Attorney General Thurman Arnold testified before then-Senator Harry S. Truman's committee investigating the war program, it became public knowledge that the Rockefeller-owned Standard Oil Company actively participated to help the Nazi war machine to the detriment of the American people. In short, Thurman produced a series of documents showing how Standard Oil cut deals with Nazi Germany, giving them ample quantities of synthetic rubber, very important in aircraft manufacturing, while starving the U.S. of the vital war commodity.
So Thurman what?
Thurman Arnold. Unbelievably, Standard Oil was let off the hook with a $50,000 fine. The Pittsburgh Press ran the article titled "Truman Aroused by Revelations of Nazi Use of U.S. Secrets." It was a front-page article written by George Reedy in 1942, who then goes on to set the stage. Like, we're in the middle of a rubber shortage here. Why the hell is a company that's supposedly American giving rubber to our enemy? And they're making money off this. And that's where Harry S. Truman, like, this is effing treason.
No, but this goes on. I mean, this just happened with uranium not long ago when Hillary was Secretary of State. I mean, she had to sign that. They gave 20% of...
He was the Assistant Attorney General.
Assistant Attorney General?
Yeah.
Yeah, they gave Russia 20% of our domestic uranium mining rights.
Well, yeah,
so these kind of things go on. I mean, the timing is interesting now that, everything you hear about now is everyone's worried about the nuclear football. I mean, and we just gave them, they have 20% rights to all the uranium mined here, Russia. So this stuff goes on, and this goes on with everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've now been following this throughout history and writing this book. It continues on in the 50s and the 60s, and there are so many people in front of Congress saying things along the lines of, look, what's going on? This weapons manufacturer is selling either the weapons, the plans, or the raw materials needed to make said weapons. They're profiting from it, and they're using those weapons to kill American soldiers in South Vietnam. And because these American companies are, they're earning money off of this war, the other side of the company is lobbying here in our Congress today, saying that they need more military budget so that they can win the war against the Russians, the very, the communists, the very group that they're also funding. These guys need to be hung.
Yeah, but anymore, I mean, that's large scale, right? That's like big, even really small now with computers, UPC codes, credit cards, and all the algorithmic patterns they can create out of this data. I mean, they can literally control the prices of one thing up or down to affect the economy down the road in some other way, and literally have effectively done this and enslaved everybody without them knowing it.
Yeah. I mean, we are slave. I mean, we have freedom, so when we think of slavery, we think of whips and chains. But we are basically, there is a giant pen.
Yeah.
And we're allowed to roam in there.
Yeah, it's an ant farm.
But if you try to go over the edge or go to the other side, you realize you're not free. You're free as long as you stay within ideologically, some certain parameters.
Yeah.
And that was a hard thing to understand, because we're raised to believe we're in the only free country, and I would say it's the freest, at least for now. I don't think for much longer.
No, probably not. I think if we're going to be any reflection of what's happening in Europe down the road here, you're going to see, censorship's already starting to take root in the form of this fake news narrative.
They're going to control social media.
They'll be filtering that, and then,
And they're already doing it in Google. So, when I started 5 years ago, when I started researching this stuff, if I wanted to look up something about Building 7 on 9/11, I'd put in the search terms, and it would give me serious researchers, serious documentaries, things like that about World Trade Center 7. Now when I do it, what I get, the first 4 or 5 articles are, anyone that believes World Trade Center 7, you're a loon.
Yeah, you're a fool. Yeah,
There's loony lists,
fringe groups, state, blah blah blah.
I totally experienced the same thing. There's this silly font site I go to that has stock art and fonts. Okay, and I used to put in these words. I can never remember it, and I'm not smart enough to bookmark it. And I used to put these search terms into Google. Within the top couple responses was always this one particular site. The name's escaping me. And I've noticed, I didn't play around with it for a few months, didn't have a need, but every now and then I get a client who needs a specific font, and fonts are expensive, man. Are you going to really drop $300 on the font for your business card? You're not going to. I'm not going to. And so usually I can go out and find a free version of it or something that's very, very close, and this font site is what it had. And all of a sudden I realized, I'm like, am I writing down the wrong search terms? Because all of a sudden it's not on the first 3 pages. And I'm sure that somebody, the people who sell the fonts, got in there, hey, you're diminishing our profits by bringing up these sites that mimic our fonts. But I totally noticed that within the last couple of weeks. Search terms I've been using for years on Google to get certain places. I mean, it was so easy to do that I didn't bother bookmarking like the old days or making a list of websites in a Word doc, and totally changed.
Yeah. Well, there was a really great presentation at TED Talks, and it was a guy that was talking about how, now we get our news pretty much through the internet. And he did an experiment with his audience where he's like, two people can sit right down on 2 separate computers and put in the exact same search terms, and based on these 84 data points Google has on everybody, it determines what results he sees. So if you go looking for information on something in Israel, and I do the exact same thing, we're not going to be looking at the same information. And some of the examples he pulled up were pretty frightening because when you want to go find out the truth of something, he would do a search on his machine, someone else would do a search on another, and his machine would take him to the article he wanted. But a new person, going to investigate what is this thing, what pulled up on their machine were all these debunking sites right off the bat. And that's like, what an effective way to keep someone from...
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I've even noticed weird things on my phone, dude, where... And most people would not think this is that big of a deal. They may even think, like, hey, that's kind of cool. But it struck me as very odd. And just out of nowhere, my phone didn't always do this. Just out of nowhere, it started doing... It was like with one of the software updates, right, where it literally knows my pattern, my daily pattern. So if I get in the car at a certain time, it'll just pop up on my phone on the screen. It'll say, because like if I go to Livonia for work in the morning, it'll say, hey, take, going to Livonia, take whatever, M14, traffic is light, should, 20 minute, whatever. And then if I get in the car in the afternoon, it'll say, like, come in here. This afternoon I started driving here. It said, look, I'd get in the car, start the car, look at my phone, it just pops up on the screen. It says, going to Redford, take blah, 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 traffic is light. And I'm like, it's literally patterning my travel behavior and then giving me, a heads up like, yo, we know you're going to Redford about now on this day because it's only one day a week. I don't go to Redford for any other reason, any other time ever. Just Thursdays for the show. You see what I mean? And it's just very odd that it's just...
Right now, someone in Redford is offended by that.
I don't mean any... I wasn't trying to trigger a microaggression. Find some Play-Doh, you'll be all right. Coloring book, you'll be fine. But yeah, it's just weird. So it's
yeah, that
like
sort
said,
of power, as long as it's in the
kind of
hands of someone
stuff
good,
is weird, man.
But that kind of information in the hands of someone that has, dark motives, it's too powerful.
Yeah, it's strange. For me, it's unsettling. I'm just like, why does this thing know where I'm? It's just weird. And a lot of people are probably like, oh, cool, man. It gives me the the clearest route home. Awesome. But the thing knows I'm going home.
Because the thing knows where you're at all the time.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So it's like establishing the same thing with, you buy one thing, dude. And no matter what, I could be reading a news article and on the side, it's just
that
advertisements for
whatever you looked at.
It's really crazy.
And that's really taken shape over the last couple of years.
Yeah, it's crazy. So the same thing is with information. If you're, like you said, you literally could steer people based on don't you think it's odd that, someone like, I don't know where you guys end up on, some say certain websites. Like I would never end up on thinkprogressive.org or, Move On or any of these. I would never even. But if your social media activities, your shopping patterns, whatever it is that's, data points on how you conduct yourself online with your phone, etc. How is it that these people end up on these websites that are just they're clearly tilted, spun, straight up propaganda, foaming at the mouth, deception, some of them, whereas I don't ever end up on websites like that.
Well,
it's really just kind of strange.
I know, like, if I search for 9/11 hoax or something like that, the search results I get, it's like my computer knows I already know about 9/11. It doesn't even give me any debunking search results. It just brings me right into 9/11 conspiracy documentaries, for instance. But then I go do that same search on my mom's account, who's never searched for anything about the results she gets are, wackos believe 9/11,
yeah.
Richard Gage
Truth
has lost
or
his
this.
mind. Yeah, all this stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, Oh my gosh!
It's-
Like we would think, oh, we're using the same Google.
No.
And unless you go look at their computer screen,
Yeah, you don't know.
you don't actually know how much you're being played.
Yeah. And that is a very dangerous weapon because, and the technology obviously is sophisticated enough to know whether on that computer what has or has not been searched to this point. So if you were, like you said, if you were somebody who, say, heard something, say, on this show or on some other show or whatever, and decided to Google it, immediately you're faced with all the redirecting, all the all the misinformation, everything. So then you're like, oh, well, yeah, so that was just crazy, and you move on. Maybe you don't, but I think most people that are just going to search something just to, let me look into that. And the first, even, say, 10 pages are all things just to lead them away from, what's really the truth behind it. Are you really going to go 100 pages deep on a search? I don't think I ever have.
I go 5. That's it.
5 pages.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So, I mean, if you kept... But, no one's doing this. So, yeah, it's... At this point, I don't even know if there are people behind that.
No,
This is just all AI kind of functionality at this point.
Yeah, it's just a formula, and each one of these they have some. I think the number was 80-some data points Google collects on every user, and depending on the values for those points, it determines how it works for you.
Right.
I mean, but they're basically, we're allowing someone else to determine what's important for us.
At this point, we're allowing something else
Yeah.
to tell us what's important or not. I mean, there's people that program this stuff in the background, but it gets to a certain point where this algorithms are just taking place on their own. So it's not even, there aren't people like, okay, so-and-so searching. This is all just plugged into... does a little solution, and this guy, I mean, a good example of this, these guys, you've seen those guys that have done that with a Rubik's Cube? This is really incredible, but it's kind of a stripped down version of what we're trying to describe with the way you can apply, algorithms to some pattern and say Hooper always wants to see this kind of stuff based on this. There's these guys that have somehow... And the one guy who's the most incredible has done this in his brain, where depending on the condition of one of the faces on the Rubik's Cube, depending on the pattern that's there at the time, so you scramble it all up, right? And you look at the one face, there's a specific algorithm you can apply that has the least number of moves needed to get that one face to a solid color, which means all the other faces end up in a solid color. So you really only have to worry about the one face.
Right.
But depending on the combination, if it's, say, red, orange, white, whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is. Whatever, he already has it memorized what the algorithm is, and it's like he can solve it in seconds. It's like bam, 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 done. I mean, people have created machines that do this. The Rubik's Cube machine, right? It takes a photo of the... it uses vision. It takes a photo of whatever the condition of the face is. Computer, it has some manipulators that spins the thing, and it does the algorithm and solves the Rubik's Cube. But there's a guy that can do this with his brain. That was the one that was most impressive because he's using his organic computer to do this. But yeah, it's that simple. So whatever it is you put in, now on the computer or on our phones, on the internet, this gets way more complicated because... you got your purchases, you got what you use your credit cards for, you got search keywords that you put in, things you say on social media. All this stuff can be filtered and applied in a way to get to the point where they literally are steering you through.
Well, this is what the whole Edward Snowden NSA case was about. Because, I mean, we used to make movies of this dystopian, authoritarian, futuristic world, like a Soylent Green kind of thing, where the government is just completely watching all of its citizens. I read you a quote earlier of how 1975, there were guys saying that America is going to be on such a surveillance lockdown. It'll be on, and it's happened.
Yeah.
And it's hard to believe that it came to fruition.
Yeah, 'cause some of the things that Snowden described were downright creepy.
Well, so the NSA, it's not that they have the ability to do it, it's that they're doing it. Everyone, not just American citizens. I mean, they probably have this on every human being in the world. And it's not like this is all automated, but everything, every conversation you've had, your phone's recording it. Every website you've ever seen, words spoken anywhere near a microphone, all of it recorded. Text conversations, voicemail messages left, ones you receive, ones you leave. All of it goes into your personnel file. And maybe, quote unquote, maybe right now that information's not being used against people, but it will be.
Well, that's the question that's always asked when presented with this
Why gather it?
scenario. Exactly. Why? And that's the question. Isn't why for me. It's what are they planning on doing with it? Because the amount, the investment into this, that kind of memory. I mean, they have to build facilities like they have in very cold climates, to house all this memory. They're literally just giant, memory banks in these buildings. So what are they doing with? What are they gonna do
you'd
with
almost need one box per human. I mean, with the amount of,
it's unbelievable the amount of memory that it takes. So then again, what are they going to do with? What are they doing with all this? This.
Well, what I think when they come across, what are for them troublemakers, I do believe they use this information to get at them.
Because I do know that they have ways of flagging, say, keywords. So if we're having a conversation on the phone and you start talking about the president and I start talking about something else, it literally can get to a level where actually an actual human being is listening to our conversations because it's of interest. Other than that, it's just being stored.
Now, the technical, I was just going through like a scenario. The powers that be know you're here in Redford at this address every Thursday. Now, what's scary is on the other side, the same tracking technologies in our automobiles. In fact, there have been a lot of examples where cars just start to drive themselves. There was a radio call, and this was a YouTube video. A dude has got his family in a car. He's like, I'm hitting the brakes. I got nothing. It's like the car's floored. He's going 100 miles an hour down some, country road, and he's calling the police, 911. He's like, got to figure out a way to get his car stopped. He does not know how to do it. And the family, you can see them freaking out every time they're coming up to an intersection, and they get past a few intersections, no accident. But eventually, there was an accident, and everyone in the car died. This was it was recorded. It was a 911. And cars have the ability to be remotely driven. That's been...
Yeah, now they do, because nothing is... It's all drive-by-wire stuff now. The steering's not even linked. It's all electronic. It's not like it used to be.
So you don't think that if they wanted to, have you removed and do it in a way that would never create any suspicion, is just have a random driver's car all of a sudden turn?
Oh, it's easily done. This has been this has been demonstrated by
it's
low-level hackers. I mean, they can do it with their cell phones.
Yeah.
This has been done. So sure, of course. Or you just have mysterious heart failure. I mean, they've done this forever.
So when I see someone's death paraded all over the news, that's going back to Carrie Fisher. That's where I'm just like,
yeah,
that seems odd. A 60-year-old actress dies, or however old she was. Heath Ledger, Philip Seymour Hoffman, the guy from the Drive series.
Yeah, Paul.
I don't know.
Walker.
Oh,
Did
yeah.
they get as much press I mean, these were young men in the prime of their lives, but this woman, I don't know. Maybe I was
I
looking
don't
into
know.
it.
Don't underestimate the power of Princess Leia.
Yeah,
dude.
Star Wars, man. It's Star Wars, dude.
'Cause she's a household name.
It's a big
man.
deal. Yeah, it's a
Seriously,
big deal.
I'm not even being facetious on this one.
Yeah,
I know.
and it's it's just the timing is odd too because she was just in the spotlight again because of this book that she
Yeah.
put out. So she's been doing interviews and appearances and stuff like that. So she's been kind of Star Wars. What is the one that just came out?
Rogue One.
Yeah. So that's probably why it's just like whoa. I mean,
I think
yeah,
that
it's
I think
Princess
that's
Leia,
why.
dude.
Yeah, I think that's why
Yeah.
because it's Star Wars just came out prior to Christmas, and I really think that is a large part of the reason why they're making such a big deal about it. Plus, she was very active behind the scenes. I guess she wrote a lot, produced. Yeah,
Yeah, there was a lot of times she filled in some of her own stuff in her lines.
yeah.
Interesting.
So she was way more connected than just being Princess Leia.
Well, I still see her in that brass bikini or whatever.
Yeah.
it was.
Slave outfit.
Yeah,
Mm.
Jabba. Yep.
I was okay with that scene. I remember that.
You and every nerd out there.
Yep.
Well, I think we've babbled enough.
Yeah, I think
This is our last show for this year.
for this year when we come back, it'll be a new year, whole new us.
Yeah, and we're gonna pump some blood into this thing. It's gonna be an
Heck
interesting.
yeah.
We're gonna start having some guests, so we're
Yeah.
not the only ones talking about this junk. We'll bring in some of the pros,
I think that's a good idea.
and we've got that book coming out. Probably by the time it comes out, it'll be the first week of February. We're actually on schedule for this one.
Excellent.
Good, and we're on next week.
That's the plan.
Yeah. Why wouldn't we?
I don't know. Why wouldn't we be? I mean, maybe if Dave's phone tells him to drive somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, we owe happy hour several minutes, so we'll give him 3
Like end of the. Why do we do this show? What's the main reason?
to make people aware of the real truth.
But what is there a higher calling than that? I mean, this is like a rigged question.
Oh, is this a quiz?
No.
I didn't study.
At the end of the day, the message is not to dwell on all this dark stuff. It's there if you want to know about it. It can open your eyes if you wanted to. Don't trust us. Do your own research.
Absolutely.
It literally, when you realize that there really is a spiritual war around us, and you understand what the stakes are, every human needs to know this. They have to know
Yeah,
it.
you got to end up on the right side of it.
Yep.
So that's the main reason for this stuff. It's fascinating, yeah. It can also be scary, but you're not alone. We're going through this with you guys.
Yep.
It has been a good year.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening.
Glad it's
And
over.
we're going to bust it out next year, I think.
Yeah.
Any parting thoughts from you folks?
Oh my God, Happy New Year almost.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Let's go grab a cocktail.
Yeah,
next
let's
door.
do
All
that.
right. This has been Down the Rabbit Hole. The guy be the glory.